Welcome back, sports gamers. It's the natural Madden 22 gameplay drop today, and got a little deep dive for you guys here with my man Forverts.
Hey, you ready for this gameplay dive?
Yeah. Let's get right into it. Starting off with the dynamic game day components, which features the atmosphere and momentum, and of course they got next gen stats coming back from last year's game.
The next gen stats are back. You talk about the broadcast. That's where you're really going to see that stuff come to life. You're going to see those air yards and different things that people are really excited about. When you're talking about the atmosphere, though, like that's going to be something really cool. You're going to see some of the super fans out there. So people that the teams you support, you're used to seeing up in the crowds, including new crowd animations. If you ever talk to anybody who plays the game constantly, they talk about the crowd always doing the same thing. That'll get changing up a little bit this year. And I put it out in my Twitter feed. The stuff on the sideline, those interactions, those are going to be really cool to see. I know in the beta when I was playing, Tom Brady just scored a touchdown, came to the sideline, tried to high-five somebody, and they left them hanging like what happened in real life. So there's some pretty cool stuff going on with the atmosphere stuff.
Yeah, that's one thing that we've been kind of clamoring for a while. Always going all the way back to the true worlds or real worlds, or the whole thing they were touting years ago. That we've been kind of looking for, that authentic atmosphere and environment of an NFL stadium.
And speaking of stadiums, let's talk about the stadiums a little bit, right? So they do bring back home field advantage this year, and various things from those stadiums can occur. They talk about things like a wide receiver not being able to get the hot route, or when you look at the play art, not being able to see the play or the route that somebody's going to be running. All cool features. Every team's going to have a home field advantage this year. I think my favorite is the wind in Chicago. The kickers are going to struggle with wind more in Chicago. Shout out to Bears fans. So a lot of cool stuff happening there in the home field advantage realm.
Yeah, that's really cool. I know, kind of taking it back to college football and Subway football a little bit, pulling some things from there. With you have the receivers that can't hear the play or tough to audible, depending on crowd noise. But they have some really cool ones. I'm interested to see they put out the full list of turf war from Jets and Giants, or the bullpen from the Texans, or there's a lot of different. They got little, kind of names, Who Day and the Go Pack Go for each stadium there. I'm interested to see what actual in-game effect they have for those, and really differentiating, how it's like going to someone's house and how it differs from playing somewhere else. But move right on there. They do add some for as far as the game day atmosphere, some momentum-driven sideline reactions, and new celebrations as well.
And those celebrations, that's what I was kind of talking about. Like you're going to see them getting fired up on the sideline. So they'll do a cut scene after your opponent scores, and you'll see your quarterback trying to get guys up, get them ready to go for the next series. So when people talk just about the immersive factor of the game, I think really what they've done here in game day is going to be one of those things that people will really appreciate when they play through these games.
Yeah, I see that they got the updated broadcast package with the next gen stats. Kind of disappointed. A lot of people have always kind of been asking for having additional teams and broadcast teams, and not just the typical one. Like usually they just have 2 guys per year, but like 2K, they have multiple broadcast teams, and that really gives a real life feel, because in real life there's not just 2 broadcasters that do every football game, right? I mean, there's a mix of different teams and programs, and channels, ESPN, Fox Sports, CBS, whatever, that covers various different games. But it's just kind of disappointing that with Madden, we're always stuck with the same 2 guys.
And I think really what that comes down to is the amount of lines each guy has to read, right? So like if you double the amount of broadcasting teams, I forget what it was, but when Charles Davis first got involved a couple years back, they talked about it was some crazy amount of recording things they had to do, 20,000 lines they had to read. So I think the issue they're running into there is there's just so many lines that they do for these games that having multiple teams that's just a bear to try to get in there.
Yeah, no, I'm not saying it's not a lot of work, but I mean, again, it's other games do it, so it's kind of hard to have an excuse. I mean, do they have less lines in a basketball game than a Madden game? Honestly, I don't know the answer to that question, but moving right along, another big thing, especially for the guys who play offline or versus the CPU, this player tendencies thing is huge as far as the QB decision making and all that. And a lot of these things are tied into the playbooks, which also going to see an overhaul on Madden 22.
So there's a lot going on here, and they talked about it in their video. 80% of all games played in Madden are against the CPU. Not sure why, because up until now, playing the CPU has not been a very good experience. Quarterbacks throwing the ball away under pressure doesn't make sense at times. When to go aggressive, when to check down. Those things have all got tuned this year. The player is going to play more realistically into the terms of like how an NFL player would do it in certain situations. That's all driven by their next gen stats, but also in something that's worth keeping track of is the teams themselves are going to play like the teams from real life. So they're going to be tied into that. For instance, the Steelers are going to be a blitz happy team. The Ravens are going to be a very run heavy team, so on and so forth. What's cool about this year is they're actually going to morph and kind of evolve as the year goes on. So in Play Now, if a team's kind of tendencies change throughout the year, you're going to see the way that those computer teams play and Play Now, that will change as well. But franchises, if you're playing a franchise against computers, the way those guys play will actually evolve throughout a year. So, if a team kind of starts shifting to run heavy, you can see those kind of evolutions of teams throughout a franchise. And that's something I think will add a lot of immersiveness and depth to a CPU franchise.
Yeah, and that's really a lot of that is tied to the playbooks, because previously a lot of times the CPU, they weren't using the entire playbook. They were just a few select plays, so you see a lot more replays. So they're really trying to work on getting the CPU to actually use the full playbook and play to their team strengths. So moving on to the player movement updates. This is a next gen one. Max effort animations for all players when running at top speed. I know they're working on locomotion and a lot of things like that. That's been a big kind of pain point for how the running backs run and how the players move in the game.
And so they've done a lot of work in the catching, right? So one-on-one catching, interactions, they're doing a lot of work there. I know if you've played the beta, downfield, that's still a problem. That's being addressed, but they are working on those one-on-one interactions. Being able to get control of the ball on the sideline and turn up field quicker is something that they've been working on here as well. To the locomotion point, they talk about the bigger backs. They're going to fall forward more. They're going to truck over guys.
I feel like they've been saying that for like the past 5 to 10 years. Of course. The bigger backs will play like the bigger backs, and the smaller backs, like I feel like I've heard that ad nauseum.
I feel like they may have kind of got it though. In the beta, I feel it a little bit better. A bigger back like Derrick Henry, when he takes on a corner, you see him truck him more often than that corner being able to upend him. I do see that the offensive line play has been adjusted a little bit. They're going to set the pocket quicker. They're going to set a little deeper in the pocket, which should make it feel like you're a little closer to the quarterback. So the quarterback may have to actually move through the pocket versus feeling like they can just roll out of the pocket. So they've done some work on the movement in that context. We'll see how it goes. But it does feel different, right? That's one thing that anybody who's played the beta will tell you is it feels different. And some will not like it, some will. But I think it's going to be a lot of just getting used to, because it does feel a lot different than it has in Madden past.
Yeah, definitely playing the beta. I agree with that. And also I like that they added the contextual intelligence in tackling, because getting away slowly over time, kind of getting away for those suction tackles, and they've added different mechanics in a way over the years to kind of try to get away from that as much as possible.
And it just has to look good to the eye. I think a lot of times the optics of the lack of proper tackling context just didn't look right to the eye, and that's where a lot of people felt like they were getting pulled out of the game. I think this will help make people feel like it's more fluid, like things are happening the way they should.
Yeah, for sure. One last thing, I like the signature releases and cuts for receivers and the route running. I know last year that was a huge thing with the route running, pulling in the real routes the receivers run in the game. But I like the idea of his signature anything, a signature the way the quarterback throws the ball, the signature the way anything like that. I like that particular player is the only few group of players that do a certain thing a certain way, and I think that adds a lot of authenticity to the game as well.
And we tend to start seeing this stuff. FIFA is always a great kind of barometer of where Madden's going, because they try a lot of this stuff in FIFA. I know last year FIFA added this for like the signature dribbling and stuff like Ronaldo and some of those guys. And so you're starting to see that creep over here into Madden this year. I know last year when they got the next gen, One of the cool things about the improved route running, things like that, is you get more control over where you put the ball with this kind of route running. They're not as tethered to their route. So if you want to lead them upfield a little bit, throw it behind them a little bit, you get a little more control in how you pass. And I think people are going to find that to be a much more enjoyable passing experience.
Yeah, for sure. All right, man. Thanks for hopping on. Really appreciate it. We'll be back with next time, and we'll cover some more from Madden 22.
Like this video and subscribe now for more news, tips, reviews, and gameplay from all of your favorite sports games. Now, if you want to take your game to the next level with insider news, free games, and access to our private chat, join our Patreon, the link below, and subscribe to SGO Insider today.